to those people who look at the right and the left, Democrat, Republican, and they don't necessarily line up in those parties, but by and large they do. And they say to themselves, one party, left, right, politics, doesn't really matter. Eventually they all balance themselves out. It's one opinion versus another opinion, and the pendulum swings right and left, and somewhere meets in the middle. To those people, I say that's absolute nonsense. In fact, free societies probably constitute only about 1% of history. You can look at the old ancient Roman Republic before Caesar, and you can look at the United States and a few other very small slivers of history. But by and large, 99% of history is dominated by oligarchical power or collectivism. Now here, when we start getting in the weeds, when we start talking about particular titles or names of classification for certain societies, you can call them socialism, you can call it fascism, you can call it communism, you can call it statism, corporatism. All of these are basically pseudonyms, and they all basically are a subsidiary of collectivism. What is collectivism? Well, collectivism is the group is more important than the individual. That's the classic definition. But how is that made manifest? How does that unfold in society in real terms, in praxis? Well, it means basically that a few people will decide for the masses how the masses should behave, what laws they should follow, and they rule through judicial fiat, legislation, and dependence upon the government largesse. But none of these societies are equitable. None of these societies are egalitarian. Now, I'm not talking about equity as Kamala Harris would define it, which is essentially a synonym or another word for equality of result or equality of outcome. But I'm talking about equality of opportunity, where government gets out of the way and allows people to behave and to take care of themselves, and the government is beholden to the people rather than the other way around. And you hear a lot of talk about let's protect democracy. If Trump gets elected, it's the end of democracy. Well, first of all, democracy is the precursor to all forms of despotism, all forms of collectivism, fascism, communism, socialism, ad nauseum, whatever term du jour you'd like to throw in there. But freedom is very exceptional. And only with free-minded, moral people do you have a society that can have wealth for the most people possible, that can have equal opportunity for the most people possible. Now, I say it that way because it's a caveat, because obviously you cannot have equal outcomes in any society unless you have a totalitarian, draconian hand that it controls the populace. And that's what the left mean when they talk about social justice. That's what the left mean when they talk about equality. They mean equality of outcome or equity, right? Balancing the scales. Well, how do you balance the scales if you don't have somebody in government, somebody in a tiered system of concentric rings of power that can wield and can allocate those resources? You can't. It doesn't exist. Mao, Ceausescu, Tito, Stalin, Castro, Kim Jong-un, Chavez, Maduro, Pol Pot, Hitler, Mussolini. Everywhere in history, collectivism fails. It fails miserably. And it makes people miserable. It wipes out the middle class. It's the first thing that happens. They wipe out the middle class. They say they want equality. No, they don't. You don't get equality by wiping out the middle class. You have, in the end, when leftism is mature, after generations of leftist thought and ideology and policies that are guided by the misguidance of leftist thought, you look at the societies that these people say they want to emulate, they want to practice, they want to follow, and it's a dystopian nightmare of crime, injustice, a two-tiered system of elites, usually politicians partnering with corporations, which is the definition of fascism according to Mussolini, and the other people who are serfs,